Okay, so after our little push forward, Pauline, demonstrate to you very clearly that being on your court record and having abided by the law, we're now expecting you to do the same. So we just go back to this criminal code this time, Pauline, and we keep going through this, because I don't keep on you, Pauline Hanson. You're the one. You're the chosen one. Okay, so Division 9, circumstances involving mistake or ignorance. Mistake or ignorance of fact, fault elements other than negligence. See, we become negligent if we're not intentful. There's sort of these boundaries at law, Pauline, that Lydia can't escape, having become a senator under oath with a duty to this law. Duty, Pauline, an actual duty, right? So we have this duty of allegiance that you have taken on, right, under a codified Crimes Act. So 9.1, mistake or ignorance of fact. A person is not criminally responsible for an offence that has physical element for which there is a fault element other than negligence if, at the time of the conduct of constituting the physical element, the person is under a mistaken belief about or is ignorant of facts. Is Lydia ignorant of facts, or is she in full knowledge of facts, having been placed there by Adam Bant? Because we said we'd get back to this conspiracy part of this law, remember, Pauline? So we have to define whether these people are ignorant, because ignorant is no excuse when it comes to a Nuremberg offence. Remember that, Pauline. Remember that. Okay, so B, the existence of that mistaken belief or ignorance negates any fault element applying to that physical element. Well, we have this big conundrum in that Madaraka agreement is not exactly what it is shown out to be. And we have a Prime Minister that is, as we've shown, to be sabotaging a referendum, going against the criminal code, Pauline. Going against the criminal code, Pauline. So 9.2, mistake of fact, strict liability. A person is not criminally responsible for an offence that has a physical element for which there is no fault element if, at or before the time of the conduct constituting the physical element, the person considered whether or not facts existed and is under mistaken but reasonable belief about those facts. So we could say that Lydia is under a mistaken belief, but judging by her actions and then relevance to the other parts of the act, Pauline, we can sort of demonstrate there's no mistake going on here. There was full intent going on here, okay? Mistake or ignorance of a statute law. A person can be criminally responsible for an offence even if at the time of the conduct constituting the offence he or she is mistaken about or ignorant of the existence or content of an act that directly or indirectly creates the offence or directly or indirectly affects the scope or operation of the offence. Can be criminally responsible, Pauline. 9.4, mistake or ignorance of subordinate legislation. Same sort of thing applies here, Pauline. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse when it comes to the law. Now, claim of right, 9.5, we've already gone through that. We're the Imperial Crown. We have a superseding claim to that Constitution as naked owners, demonstrating you to be administrators under the Hague Convention. And we don't commit offences, Pauline. This is our land, right? You can't administer us under criminal codes if you're a bunch of criminals. This is the basic reality of it, Pauline. Right, so we get down to, we'll come back to Section 10, because Section 10 is kind of important. Duress, sudden or extraordinary emergency, self-defence, Pauline. Lawful authority, Pauline. 10.5, who has lawful authority, Pauline? We'll come back to that. Right, we've already covered attempt. We've already started to look at complicity and common purpose. We already looked a little bit at joint commission. And we started to get down to commission by proxy, Because somebody who employs someone, Pauline, to do something, that's commission by proxy, right? And when a state like a New South Wales police force commissions the corrective services to act in a certain way because of, let's in quoted commas there, say terrorist actions, when you stand up and have a memorial for your Anzac, right? That's commission by proxy. That's Matthew Reason ringing other state police forces and getting them involved in what he self-admits as his command. Okay? Now, incitement. A person who urges the commission of an offence commits the offence of incitement. So, Matthew Reason incited other police forces to commit a war crime offence, Pauline. A literal war crime offence, Pauline. Now, we could look at Lydia and say, who incited Lydia to fist bump in the Parliament? Because I'm sure a woman of Aboriginal stature wouldn't have done that off her own bat. We also know that Adam Bandt of the Greens is directly linked to this whole putting her in the Parliament in the first place, Pauline. So where does that incitement come into play? But here's the important one. We get down to 11.5. We said we'd return to this, Pauline. And now we're going to return to 10 because we've just scrolled through some other stuff that we're going to return to too. 11.5, conspiracy. A person who conspires with another person to commit an offence punishable by imprisonment for more than 12 months. So, Madaraka Agreement. Let's just put that out there on the table, Pauline. That's imprisonment by more than 12 months for trying to undermine a constitution, for not divulging to the people the specific changes to the constitution, by appointing a referendum without any point of law, for then trying to sabotage that referendum from within the office of Prime Minister, Pauline. From within the office of Prime Minister, Pauline. By getting monetary interests to ploy the country on a yes vote through Qantas, through other financial bodies, through football, Pauline, through lots of these media-linked financial bodies. Where'd the money flow down to make that happen, Pauline? Where'd the rules flow down to make that happen, Pauline? Don't they have rules to borrow money from these investors now that include following this inclusive sort of ideology of these communists? Right? So would that be a conspiracy against the imperial crown? Right? A person who conspires with another person. Did Adam Bandt conspire with Lydia to undermine the Senate, Pauline? Did Elbow conspire with the Madaraka Agreement to undermine the Constitution, Pauline, from inside the Prime Minister's office, Pauline, with the help of the Federal Executive Council, Pauline? These are real things that we need to address, Pauline. For the person to be found guilty, the person must have entered into an agreement with one or more or other persons. A Madaraka Agreement, Pauline, right? That already said treaty, already said reparations in a situation where an imperial crown is the naked owner of that constitution, and now you have a very big legal problem on your hands when you're divvying up what belongs to the naked owners. All right? There's a very big legal problem on your hand considering you created international war crimes before you started divvying that up. You entered into an agreement to do something very bad with a COVID task force commander on behalf of the World Health Organization. Okay? You can't excuse yourselves from this stuff, Pauline. It's out on the table in front of the entire world. And now you have a curial position standing up at law, right, within the courtrooms, giving justices of those courtrooms a literal line of authority to stand up and uphold things like 11.5, conspiracy against a government's people. The person and at least one other party to the agreement must have intended that the offence would be committed pursuant to the agreement. This is 50-50 bump my oath. That's an agreement with Adam Bant and the Greens to undermine the Senate, Pauline. To undermine the Senate, Pauline. And no one in the country willing to speak up and say this. You know, watch Alan Jones. You watch that woman, what's her name? Credlin. You watch all these people, Pauline. They won't speak up about facts at law, will they, Pauline? Because they're manipulated media, manipulated by a foreign occupying and imperial war crime power on this land. Isn't that right? ABC Four Corners that lied to the Australian population about sovereign citizens when an imperial right was defined on the court record, and you spoke about that very document in your hands in that email asking about sovereign citizens. That's your ideology that's been pushed out of Albo's office in a bid to undermine the Constitution for the voice. For the voice. This is set up. We know this. We've been watching your game slowly play out. And it is a conspiracy coming from inside the government. It's very obvious now. A person may be found guilty of conspiracy to commit an offence, even if committing the offence is impossible. We went through the act of attempt and the impossibility in an act of an attempt, and it's still being seen as fulfilling the event. And that could be the same as a conspiracy. So we talk about a RICO-style claim here, Pauline. We do that so that people in America can understand that under the Criminal Code 1995 11.5, conspiracy is pretty much the same thing. Okay? When you conspire with a minority group of citizenry, Pauline, that is going against the rest of the people, and that therefore is going against the Constitution. And this is now a direct attack on the Constitution by this sabotage of a referendum and the lying about the change to a legal document they don't have the lawful right to make changes to. They're not the imperial crown. They're administrating power. They have the obligation to uphold the principle at which they administer. Otherwise, they destroy the principle and are without administration, Pauline. Without administration. This is the sheer reality of it. Okay? Now, there is a conspiracy going on against not only the imperial crown, but that St Edward's crown by WEF partners, isn't there, Pauline? There are war crimes going on in that Australian government today, aren't there, Pauline? There are war crimes being committed by Australian police on Australian soil today, aren't there, Pauline? And the Australian Federal Police have failed in their command, giggling and laughing at claims made, okay? They've failed in their command to uphold the laws that they're supposed to uphold. And this is very clearly and evidently put on a court record, Pauline. My last statement on this, Pauline, because I would like to get back to Section 10 of this Constitution, Pauline, this Criminal Code and Constitution, Pauline. This is inescapable now. This has come to a point where you are being told the law at which you have broken. You are being given the opportunity to talk to all Australians and define this before all of them. Before actions are taken through the courtrooms at which justices now recognise they have a line of authority in the imperial crown, whereas the St Edward's crown has committed heinous international war crimes while administering the Constitution here under the Hague Conventions, Pauline. Under the Hague Conventions. This is very harsh reality that the entire world is going to see, Pauline. The entire world is going to see, Pauline. This would mean that when President Trump returns to the presidency, there may be a large shift that occurs within the realms of your world. This is the warning that is starkly apparent when Dutton is being questioned about his financial interests over the last 6 or 7 years. There are criminals among you, Pauline, and they've been caught out, and they're all scrambling to the post, and you all think your F partners are going to save you from this game, but you're all committed to war crimes along the way, and all the people need to do is realise this and stand with the curial right that they are as a people and have those justices stand with them, and you lot are all finished.